fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Berardelli and Russ Gallo. And you are now behind enemy lines. Man, it feels good to say those words again. Hi, everybody. How you doing, America? Gene Berardelli here with you, back again. And it's been a while, folks. And, those of you who follow me on Facebook and on, the social medias, the Twitters and all that, you probably know what's been going on with me. But for those of you in Radio Land who don't know why Behind Enemy Lines was gone for the summer or why we weren't broadcasting, it's going to take me a little while to get back into practice, folks, so bear with me. A lot's happened over the summer, and a lot of things personally here behind enemy lines, things that are bigger than politics. And, of course, what I'm referring to, what my friends already know, is that right around the middle of June, and even before that, so I would say the beginning of June, I started not feeling so well, and not just like a cold or sore throat or something like that. It was something inside that was really wrong. So I started going to the doctor, as everybody does. And I found out that, ultimately I found out I had 4 blocked coronary arteries. And they were each about 90% blocked. So you could tell that things got a little crazy. It wasn't something that I wanted to do in a haphazard manner and just take care of and hope for the best with putting a stent in or anything like that. So I decided to have a quadruple bypass. And the road to recovery was long and hard, and a lot of times it was a solitary pursuit just because I didn't want to burden everybody else with my problems. I certainly didn't want to bring down other people from their lives and have them worry about me. But got through the surgery. It took about 8 hours, right around the 4th of July. And I was in and out of the hospital for a while. I had a bit of an infection that developed after that, but that got cleared up, thank God. And as we stand here today, returning to the show these many months later, I feel great. I feel really good. I've dropped a lot of weight. It turns out that I was retaining a lot of water, and I dropped 50 pounds. So now I'm down a total of around 110 pounds from when I was when I started trying to lose weight, which is really great. But I'm feeling healthy. I feel back to my old self. The mind is a lot sharper. And I'm just trying to get back to life. The way I've looked at it is my circle has been expanding. It used to be only my bed, basically, when I was in the hospital and I was laying there post-surgery with all kinds of wires sticking out of me and everything. Then it became my room. And then it became my house. And then it became returning to work. And then, slowly getting back to life with friends and family and all that good stuff that makes life worth living. So now I'm back, and I'm so happy to be with you, trying to get the show back on the road here, and I'm just glad that you're back here with us, that you're hanging with us, and you know what? Enough of this stuff. Let's get into it, because there's been a lot of politics that I've missed in talking to you guys. Now, I've been watching somewhat. Obviously, the first couple of months I was concentrating on more important things. But I've been watching politics, and of course, everyone is talking about the confirmation hearings of Judge Brett Kavanaugh for his nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. And, of course, there's been no shortage of opinions on social media and mainstream media and alternative, conservative media, and all kinds of things. In the blogosphere, it's everywhere. You can't get away from Brett Kavanaugh and the hearings here. And, I'm not going to recap everything for you. Because if you're listening to the show and you found this show, whether it be at www.behindenemylines.radio.us, or if you're checking us out on AM radio, FM radio, the internet radio, that's cool too. Or if we're traveling along with you as a podcast, we're glad to be along for the ride. If it's one of those things that you really can't avoid. So I don't need to go through the allegations brought by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. I don't need to go through the allegations of Deborah Ramirez or the allegations by Julie Swetnick through her, let's call him interesting attorney, Michael Avenatti. Far be it from me to denigrate a member of the bar, a fellow member of the bar, but man, there's something about that guy that rubs me the wrong way. But that's time for another show. So I don't need to go through all the details of that, but I do want to give you my take on this whole thing. And after I give you my take, we're going to get on the line with a good friend of the show, who also happens to be a Democrat, has an opposing point of view on this, also an attorney, also a radio show host out of the CBS affiliate in Atlanta. I'm talking about our good friend Robert Patillo, who I've talked to on social media a lot about this. And I found it refreshing to get another attorney's perspective, and one that has more liberal leanings. I'm not going to say that Robert is definitely, progressive or liberal. I'm going to say that he's center-left, and that we have some areas of common ground that we can agree on. We have some areas that we absolutely disagree on. But as I view things, and I'll give you my views and then you listen to Robert's views later on, and I hope I did my best to let Robert explain his own views and not try to, characterize it in any way. But as far as my views on the situation, I think there is something more sinister going on here, and it has nothing to do with any of the people coming forward regarding allegations of sexual assault. Let's get one thing straight, and I know that you've heard this from other sources of media all over the place. Allegations of sexual assault are serious, they're personal, they should be treated delicately. The people alleging that things have happened to them should be treated with sympathy, with empathy, with compassion, and while at the same time, we owe a duty in investigating this and these allegations to judge slowly to the accused. For those of you who've been checking me out on my Facebook page, you know that I've been saying judge slowly for weeks now, and you're probably sick of hearing it. What do I mean by judge slowly? I mean that there has to be a certain equal playing field here. One where the accuser doesn't say that the rules were set against them, and one where the accused says the same thing, that everyone had knowledge of the playing field, everyone knew what was going on, and how an investigation was going, while neither one should be allowed to influence how that playing field is maintained. Christine Blasey Ford and her attorneys, Deborah Katz and others, do not get to set the terms of how an allegation should be investigated. At the same time, neither does Judge Kavanaugh get to set the terms of how it should be investigated as well. And I'll get to that in a second when we talk about FBI investigations and things like that and calling for things like that. So we start out from a basic principle of humanity for both people. Both deserve to be heard, both deserve to be believed, and both have the right to put forth evidence. Now granted, we're talking about an allegation from over 30 years ago. So there's a lot of evidence that can never be gathered. It's what we call evanescent evidence. It's evidence of the moment that will never be able to come back. A victim of sexual assault can sometimes claim that they have, the other person's DNA on them, within them, depending upon the severity of the allegations. There are ways to detect that. That's why police and law enforcement do a rape kit when someone claims to have been violently assaulted and raped. But there are other ways of doing it even when you're not sexually assaulted. If there is a wound or a cut or something, and DNA could be left in that respect. There's a whole science behind forensics that help out when you have this evanescent evidence. But you don't have that when the allegation is 35 years later. Now, I'm never going to fault someone for bringing allegations late. I don't think that we need to mandate that someone must say something in a certain amount of time. But I do think that people have to accept the consequences of reporting 30 some odd years later. You have to accept the consequences that there will not be a crime scene. You have to accept the consequences that there won't be that evidence that we've been talking about. You would have to accept the consequences of people not remembering things. And the same thing for the victim. If you can't remember things, that's a consequence of you waiting for whatever reason may be. And again, you have your reasons, then that's fine. But there are consequences to waiting. And a lot of that has to do with the burden of proving your allegations. Now, let's be clear about something. We're not talking about a court of law. We're talking about a Senate chamber full of politicians, and they all have agendas. Every single one of them has an agenda. Don't kid yourself. The Republicans have an agenda. The Democrats have an agenda. They all do. But what we're talking about are basic principles of American life that we've adopted from courtroom settings. Burden of proof is one of those things. Presumption of innocence is one of those things. How many times have we told a kid not to tattletale? And that is just try to get someone in trouble by claiming they did something and it not happening or having no proof of it whatsoever. Jimmy pulled my hair, Janie splashed me in the pool, things like that. A lot of times, there's going to be no evidence for that, and you have to allow for people to defend themselves. So when someone comes up with an allegation of sexual assault, there has to be some sort of basis and foundation, some good faith basis for it. And there was an opportunity to present such evidence. Testimony, as was taken before the Senate Judiciary Committee, to show how credible your allegations are. If there were doctor notes, as there were here, you could have put those forward. Dr. Ford chose not to. Again, it's a choice with a consequence. On the other side, you have to allow a presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Let's take it back to a kid setting again. Your child is accused of punching someone else in school. Your child says he didn't do it. Are you just going to allow the child to be suspended, or are you going to go there to school and confront the other parent and say, okay, show me, the black eye? Where were you together? Was there an opportunity for them to even be together? Things of that nature. And Professor Ford had that opportunity. She was supposed to put forth, as part of her burden of proof, and in keeping with the presumption of innocence of Judge Kavanaugh, any witnesses. Also by providing a date, a time, a location, things of that nature, proof that they were in the same place together. And she named some witnesses, and none of those witnesses, including one of her friends, Leland Pizer, could not corroborate that. Now, corroborate is another one of those $5 words that lawyers like me like to use in talking about burdens of proof and presumptions of innocence. We get into situations all the time. And then going back to our example with raising kids, of he said, she said. Jimmy pulled my hair, no, I didn't. And in those cases, you as a parent most likely end up with a wash. Okay, Jimmy, I'm not saying you did it, but don't do it again. And Janie, don't make up things about your brother, or something along those lines. In the law, the equivalent of that is determining whether or not to bring charges. Now, we had a prosecutor that was hired by the Senate majority. And by the way, can we give the Senate majority some credit for taking these allegations seriously, for not wanting to put a victim on trial, and for having a neutral, as close to a neutral as you can get anyway in politics, take care of questioning and putting the story together for Dr. Ford. I give Chuck Grassley all the credit in the world for doing the best he can with this situation. And, later on in the show, you'll get my opinion of the Democrats on this as well, but I'm just laying out the basic principles of reviewing something like this. So we're left with no evidence of a physical nature. We're left with no witnesses, no date certain, no location certain. And not only do we not have witnesses, but we have people denying that they were witnesses, that they were even there, or that they even knew the accused, in this case, Judge Kavanaugh. How is that supposed to prove anything? All it does is leave more questions than answers. Now, for Judge Kavanaugh, for his part, says, never did it, absolutely not, categorical and complete denials, attempted to put forth evidence of his own, including his own calendar from the 1980s that he put together of his time during the summer,